I'll leave this up for a second because I think this is really important, and then we'll get rid of PowerPoint for the moment. Pricing is something that seems to be wrapped in mystery. It is really a critical decision that all business people have to make, and you have to get it right. Oftentimes you won't get a second chance. If you charge too little, you may not be able to raise your prices and then create a sustainable business. If you charge too much, you might not get any business to even get off the ground. But the future of your company does depend on doing it right. And you have to understand, people pay to make pain go away. So what you're trying to do is encourage people to give you money to make some of their different pains disappear. I will tell you this, because everybody says, well, don't I have to be less than my competition? In a race to the bottom, only the largest can survive, and not always. So if you think that you are going to win and stay in business because you're the least expensive option out there, I'm here to tell you that is probably not the case, and you'll be very disappointed. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Hopefully it's a little more interesting to look at other people, and hopefully you enjoy looking at me. I see somebody has said this meeting is being transcribed. That's great. Thank you very much. Send me the transcription if you want. Okay, so today it really is all about what you should be charging and how to do it. So the first question, and this is what we almost said a moment ago, is, can I charge more than my competition? The answer is absolutely yes. In fact, I normally like to charge more than my competition. If I do that, the only thing I have to do is justify it. I've got to justify it by being better, by being different, and by building the perception that my charges are worth the extra money. Now, what does this really mean? We'll go through these one by one. One, what does it mean to be better? Well, to be better, first of all, it usually means to be faster. Now, this works whether you're doing products or services. If I've got products, faster might be I can get it to the customer faster than anybody else. If it's a service, I can respond to your needs faster than anybody else. I found myself, I was a consultant, I had my own practice for 38 years, and there is no backlog in consulting. When people want help, they want it right now. If you can't give it to them right now, they're going to find somebody else, because that's what they do. They need it. So you don't have a backlog. Your pricing has to be right. But if you can deliver quickly, people need help, they're willing to pay extra for it. Then, be more accomplished. Let people know what you've done. Now, this isn't just bragging. I mean, I can go on and on about all the crazy things I've done over the years in business. But when people want to hire you, if you're a consultant, they want to know that you've got the experience and you've done it before. If you've got products, they want to know that the products work and that the products will do exactly what you say they will.
Hey,
now,
Steve.
along the way, I have created my own accomplishments. I started an international association, which I was told I couldn't do. I don't like it when people tell me I can't do something. That usually means I'm going to try and do it.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We have someone in the chat that said that they would still like to look at the slides. Is that an option?
Well, okay. I really think sometimes people look too much at slides. Let me come back here. I know I just hear share, and it'll take me just a second. We'll put the slides back up, share, and okay, the slides are back up. For those of you who like to see them, I hope this will help. If it's something that helps you take notes and things, great. Okay, but you have to justify, we were just saying, the pricing. And so I would justify it by being better, being different, and building the perception that I'm better. So one of the questions is, what does it mean to be better? Well, we were just talking about this. Be faster, be more accomplished. One of the things that I did after I sold my business and I thought I'd retire, which, by the way, I flunked retirement like 4 times now. I was recruited by a little company called Boeing, and they made me their entrepreneur in residence. And what they were interested in is I taught at St. Louis University, I taught innovation and how companies can do things that they've never done before. And so they hired me and they said, Steve, this was back in 2014. They thought the military business was going to be heading downhill. And my job was to come up with 100 new business ideas every 30 days that had nothing to do with the military or commercial aircraft. And as I tell people, that was the easy part. The hard part was defining which ones we should do. And Boeing understood the numbers, and my goal was to find 2 businesses out of 1,000 ideas. And that was what we were doing. So I built the accomplishments, people understood what I could do, and they kept asking me to do more. The other thing I learned is you have to be easy to deal with. There are a lot of people that have, 20-page contracts. When you have to order something, they will only take money one way or another. They have every kind of problem filling out forms, agreeing to various things. Make it easy. When I deal with distributors, and I deal a lot with hard goods distributors, the idea is if somebody wants to order something, I want to get it to them with the least friction possible, make it easy for them to pay, make it easy for them to be a customer, and then charge them extra for that. And then we always like to offer extras. Now, in the consulting business, most of the extras were what we called change orders. If you wanted something a little different along the way than what we had agreed to, glad to do it. Here's what it'll cost you. If you say yes, I'm willing to do it. In some of my distributors, they offer extras. They may offer service. They may offer free delivery. They have all kinds of things they can be added into what they are selling. And each of these are worth money. And the money is the money that you can charge. And be better by building a reputation for success is really important. The more people know you for the successes you create, whether it's delivering the right product at the right time to the right place, or building a software system that somebody wants and it really works, that's what's going to get you money in the long run. Let's see, I see a note here, truly agree about higher price being justified. But regards to speed, do you mean custom products? Or do you mean regular custom takes time? Yeah, as long as you let people know what to expect, you can still be fast. I can create a custom product possibly a week faster than somebody else. That's speed. I don't have to have speed in that it's tomorrow. I have to have speed that I'm faster than the rest of the world. Now, I will tell you just a side issue on that. I had one client that did custom bicycles, and they had this down to a science. And they found somebody could order a bicycle, and because they had the parts, the supply chain, and the production, they usually could build a custom bicycle almost overnight. But that cheapened the product because people didn't think it was really custom. So they had to build in a 1-week delay and told people, hey, we're creating you something from scratch. It will take 5 to 7 days. And then even though it was done in one, they didn't ship it for 5 days so that people perceived that they were getting a product that took extra time to make. And this was something special. But this is where you've got to know your audience. You got to know your customers. You got to know what they expect. Be different. How do you be different? Well, sometimes it's the hours. If you're selling product, if you've got a store, be open more hours than everybody else. If you are doing project work, and most people are used to being having outsiders work 8 hours a day, maybe you can work 9 or 10 hours a day. Those are things that make you better and different. Then there are guarantees and warranties. I had a guarantee for all my clients. I said to them, look, I'm more expensive than anybody else, but I'm better than anybody else. But here's my guarantee. If you don't think I delivered services that represented the value I'm charging, you can change the invoice to any number you want. Now, over, like I said, 38 years, I've had 2 invoices that were changed. One went lower, and I fired the customer because the reason they lowered it is they said they had a high school cousin who said they shouldn't use Unix. And for those of you not in technology, don't worry about it. It's an operating system. And I told them, if you want to listen to a high school kid tell you what your business should be doing, listen to them, don't listen to me. I had another person who said, Steve, you really can't help us. We have already negotiated the best contract we can get. And I said, look, it's about $3,500 worth of work. Let me take this contract, run through it, and see if I can't save you some money. And he said, no, I'm not going to spend that. And I said, okay, what if I charge you 10% of whatever I save you? He said, you know what? I've already got a great contract. You go spend whatever time you want. I'll be glad to give you $10 or $20 if you can save us a couple hundred. Well, I found the guy had made some big mistakes, had left out some things, and at the end of the day, I saved them over $100,000. So that contract got marked up. It was only supposed to be $3,500 contract, and it ended up costing them a whole lot more. 10% of the $100,000 was $1,000. And I sort of felt bad about charging them, but no, I didn't. I was very glad to do it. But, you know, that was my guarantee. If I didn't deliver the value you thought, you could change it. Now, I also had a good reputation for service. Most of the programmers I knew, they would do something, deliver it, and disappear because they went on to the next project. I always made sure we covered everything we did. We provided ongoing service, and if people had trouble, we were there. A lot of the distributors I work with, we have guarantees. If we send you something, it doesn't work, we will bring the replacement parts to the job site or to your office, and those services are worth money. We even had one person who wanted to buy supplies for a big project they were working on, but didn't have any space to store them. So we said, look, we will rent you part of our warehouse and we will keep the supplies in there. Nobody else would do that for them. And we even charge them. We charge them rent on the space, we charge them for putting stuff in the warehouse, and we charge them to pick, pack, and ship it when they wanted it. Another thing to make you different, be an industry thought leader. Write, speak, be out there where people hear you and learn that you know more than anybody else in the industry. These are things that make you different from anybody else and allow you to charge a higher price. And then have stuff in stock if you're selling product, or stock specialties. I know one person, they are in the lighting business, and what they stock are all the lamps, all the what we call light bulbs that nobody else keeps anymore because they're out of date. But they will go buy old stock. They keep the stuff, and when somebody needs one of those old lamps, there's only one place they know to go get it. And these people have cornered the market. That's made them different, and they can charge a lot extra for that. Okay, next is to build perception. Why are you worth more? Well, I was worth more partially because I did a better job, but I also found that a higher price can suggest higher quality. So one of the things that I did, and it helped me get business, I went into professional speaking. And I would go to conferences and tell people about technology and be seen, be perceived as the expert in the field. Well, I was charging about $3,500 in the late 90s, and I was doing okay. I'd do a dozen programs at a time. And then somebody told me, Steve, you know, you're much better than that. And I said, but if I raise my price, I don't want to do fewer speeches. They said, no, you'll get more. So I raised my price to $5,000, and I thought I'd test it out. All of a sudden, I doubled my business. I was suddenly perceived as a more expensive speaker who could do better things, and so bigger conferences decided they wanted me, and instead of losing business, I got more business. So be willing to try higher prices and let people know that you're worth it. The third thing I always look for are testimonials. Nothing helps build your perception of success than other people saying that you're good. And I love them. I used to keep a book. At one point I had on my website, when websites came out, I said, here are a couple people that have said nice things about me, and I put 3 or 4 people out there. Of course, I only had 3 or 4 references at that point. As I got over 500, I stopped putting them all out. I didn't have to anymore. But those testimonials I found really worked well. And then personal references from industry. Every time I would do a job and I did it well, I would ask the person I was doing it, who else can I do it for? Who do you know that I could help? And they were always willing to give me other names. And again, I don't care whether you're selling products or you're selling a service. Every time you make a new sale, you get it going, you prove how good you are and that you are worth the extra money, then ask that customer, who else could use my services? Who else could use my products? Who else could you introduce me to that I can sell to? And that's a win-win for everybody. And the last thing is be visible. I was a published author. Okay, I've written like 9 books. I've got over 1,400 articles in the trade press. I was visible to my audience. Now, it's a little more difficult today. When I started doing this, which was in the late 70s and early 80s, I was in magazines and people actually read them. And they'd have a great distribution, and people couldn't wait to get the latest copy of Industrial Distribution magazine. And pretty much every month, there I was. That made me visible to everybody. If you're from St. Louis, I used to do an article for the St. Louis Business Journal, monthly article about technology in St. Louis. Again, people didn't see it the first time. People didn't see it the second time. But over the years, people would say to me, Steve, I just saw you had an article in the Business Journal. That's so cool. They didn't realize it was my 87th article, but something finally caught their attention and they decided that's where they needed me. And that's all I wanted, is to be visible enough so that when somebody needed help, they thought of me. And again, it doesn't matter whether it's a product or a service, it's what you have to do. Now, somebody said, always the few unhappy versus the masses of good that just do not provide the testimonial side. Well, this is why you've got to ask for them. People will not write you a testimonial just because you're a nice guy. They're going to write a testimonial because you ask them. Don't be afraid to ask. Okay, so now let's talk about pricing and sell. How do you set the number? Well, there are a couple things that you need to know. Number one, what does it cost you to sell 1 unit of your product or service? And we'll go over these in detail in just a minute. But you need to know your cost of selling. Number 2, you need to know the cost to deliver 1 unit. What does it take to buy the raw materials to assemble them? What does it take to put the programmer out on somebody's site? And then what is the price for 1 unit? Okay, and a unit can be an hour of work or it can be a unit of a product. But the big thing is 1 and 2 added together must be less than number 3. So if it costs you X dollars to sell, Y dollars to deliver, and that equals Z, if you're not charging 2 times Z, it's going to be hard for you to make money. But you can't make those decisions until you know what the costs are. So let's talk about this. First of all, what does it cost to make a sale? Well, some of you may hire salespeople that are commission only. Some of you will hire salespeople that you're going to pay a salary to. Some of them, you're just going to do the selling yourself. Well, you have to know what the time is. What's your sales cycle? In consulting, it took me more time to let people know I was out there. But when somebody called and asked for help, usually they wanted it right away. They wanted it right away because that's when they needed it. Same thing with product. Sometimes when you're selling a product, it can take you 6, 10, 12 months. But then once you've made the sale, that's when the money flows. But you got to understand the time it takes so that you can build that in. And I just saw, yes, recordings will be available after you fill out the survey that you will get after this whole program's over. Okay, number 2, what does your marketing cost? marketing is not direct sales. Marketing is building awareness. Well, you may have a website out there that you have to keep up to date. You may have video blogs. You may have different things that you're publishing that you send out. All of that costs time and money. And you have to figure that into what it is that you are going to charge. Then you've got negotiations. This is going to take you time to get done. It's time that goes into every sale, as is contracting and dealing with all the various things that people want in their contracts. Then, like I said, sometimes you're going to be paying commissions to salespeople, and you're going to reimburse them for expenses. All of these fit together and give you an idea of what does it cost to actually make a sale. And so many small businesses only look at the cost of their product or the cost of their service and don't consider all of this background, and there's overhead in there. So that's, you got to think about. What is this going to cost me to sell? Then what does it cost me to deliver? Well, it's not just building it, but you've got management time, you've got overhead allocations, you've got accountants, you've got lawyers. Somebody's got to pay for all of that, and it's you. And you've got to divide this among all of the sales you make. Now, let's say that you're building something. You've got equipment depreciation. I was talking to a young person just this last week. They're starting a business to take pictures, to do photography of events. Well, I asked him, how long will one of your flashlights last? Well, he says, it depends on how much I use it. I said, let's say you're using it a lot. He said, well, I probably have to replace it every 6 months. The lamp that's in it, and the rest of the equipment is probably good for a couple years. Well, I had him take this and calculate how much of the equipment he had to charge to each event to be able to pay for it when it didn't work anymore. And he said, well, maybe I can do 50 weddings a year. And I said, let's not start at the top of what you think you can do. Let's start at the bottom. Do you think you can get 10 a year, 12 a year? He said, well, if I can't do more than that, I probably can't stay in business. I said, that's okay. But let's take all of these costs and allocate them as if you only did 10 a year. If you do 20, 30, or 50, you're way ahead of the game. But at least as you're starting, you know you're covering your costs. Then add delivery. In his case, it was what was his time and cost to drive to an event. So he finally came up with any events that were within 5 miles of his home. There was no driving charge. It was outside of 5 miles. He charged $1 a mile plus $30 an hour for drive time. This is all part of what it cost him to deliver one unit. And then for many of you, there may be an installation or an implementation charge. Not only did they buy it, not only did you build it, now when you get it to them, you have to put it in and make it work. Well, all of this goes into the cost of delivering one unit of your product or service. And then finally, the price for this. Number one, it must be greater than the previous two combined. Number two, it must include your time. And number three, it must include a profit. Just because you are recovering all your costs doesn't mean that you're making any money. To make money, you got to recover your costs, plus pay for your time, pay for the risk you've taken to build the business, and pay for a profit. So what goes into that calculation? First of all, what is your time worth? I sit down with people and I say, hey, what is your cost of living all in? This means rent. This means everything that you have to pay on a monthly or annual basis. You need to know what all of your costs are. If you don't know what all of your costs, you can't possibly recover what you've put into it. So housing, food, insurance, utilities, vacations, all of that has to go into your cost of living. And let's say that you determine, I'm making up numbers here just to be simple. Let's say that you figure it costs you $1,000 a month to live. And I know that's way below whatever is reasonable, but it's an easy number. Okay, if that's what I need, and if conservatively I can deliver 5 units in a month, guess what? Each unit must recover $200 to pay for my time. Now, become more realistic. Say that number is 5,000 or 10,000 a month, and say that you can do 10 a month. Well, again, it's a simple division, but you need to understand what is the value of your time and use this number to increase the price over cost. But that's not where you start. You have to build in a profit. Getting paid for your time is just going to work for somebody else. Making a profit is owning your own business. Profit is not a four-letter word. It is something that you need to stay sustainable, and it's good to make a profit. Profit will allow you to grow because it gives you money to be able to hire people, to buy new equipment, to go out and do things you can't otherwise do. And profit allows you to enjoy what you're doing. I was very glad to take vacation every year. You know, my wife and I got to do some very nice trips, especially when I hooked them up with a speaking engagement. We got to travel around the world doing that. You need to enjoy what you're doing. If you're not having fun in your business, it can be an awful slog trying to keep up with everything that you have to do every day. And let me tell you, there's a lot to do every day, and you have to be thinking about it all the time. So, how much profit should I make? Well, one, you want to test the market. While I say you don't have to be less than the competition, you usually have to be in the same ballpark, especially if there are people out there that are doing better and different than the average. Be near the top of the industry, but don't get way above and don't get way below. Now, I know some of you are going to start out and say, hey, I'm selling this product, and I think I should probably be selling it for $150 a unit. But to get the first ones out, hey, will you buy this for $100? Well, right away, you are resetting the value of your product. Your product now is only worth $100. And after you sell the first few, the word's on the street, these are worth $100. Now moving up to 150 is going to be a real pain. You won't always be able to do that. I tell people, if you believe your product is worth 150, start out at 150. Now, you might tell people, if you're one of the first 10 to buy it, I will give you a 30% discount. Okay, now it's okay. You have set the value of your product at the 150. You can do the discount because now everybody's going to tell everyone else, hey, this is $150 a unit. I was one of the first 5 in. I got a 30% discount, but it's still worth the 150. Now, if you do a discount, know what you're going to get for it. I never gave discounts just to give it away. I asked for a letter of recommendation. Hey, you're my first client. Will you give me a letter of recommendation if I do a good job? Yes. Will you give me leads and introductions to others who can do my services? Yes. Can I use your name on my website in advertising? Yes. These are all reasons for giving somebody a discount. Don't do it for nothing. Always make sure you get something of value for what you give away in value, because that is really critical. Now, when I'm starting out, I might be willing to take a little less profit than later on, but I'm really not ready to take a small profit. I want as much as I can make. Now, I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm trying to get to where I think I should be. Take my speaking business, for example. By the time I retired in 2014 and stopped doing it, I was charging $10,000 for a 90-minute program. Now, a lot of people might think, holy cow, Steve, that's not worth it. Well, but you had to step back and think. When I did my consulting and I did some like legal work, I was an expert witness, I was getting $450 an hour. So if flying to a conference the day before, losing that day, being at the conference for a whole day, even if I only spoke for 90 minutes, and getting home on the third day, when you think about it, $10,000 wasn't outlandish. I was earning money for the time I was putting in. Did the 10K include travel, board food? No. All expenses were in addition to the 10K. And that's the way I did it. I know some people who will do it otherwise, and it's really up to you. You have to decide what you want out of the business. I decided that that was my bottom line. And if I was going to spend 3 days, that's what I was going to charge. And I did have one group wanted me to go over and do their international conference. And they said, Steve, we'll fly you over to Paris. Will you give us a discount? And I said, no, I'm going to charge you extra. And they said, what extra? We're taking you to Paris. I said, doesn't matter. I'm going to lose an extra 4 or 5 days because I got to get there 2 days ahead of time. I got to get acclimated to the new time. I'm still going to do the presentations. And then I got the time back. Well, they agreed. They paid double my fee. And I was happy to do it because I took the ticket they bought me using frequent flyer mileage, took my wife for free. And we spent actually a week in Paris before the program and 3 days after the program in Paris. So it was a paid for vacation. That was really nice. And I think you all can do things like that. The other thing about Profit is Profit allowed me to then start hiring out the stuff I didn't like to do. So once I got the money rolling in, I hired an accountant because I hated accounting. I hired a manager to help take care of all the day-to-day processing because that wasn't fun for me. I was able to afford to do these things, which in turn allowed me to grow even bigger. So Profit is something that you all need, you all have to feel comfortable with, and you all should be willing to push to get as much as you can. Now, when we talk about pricing, one of the things I always hear are some of the reality checks. Number one, know your competition, but don't be afraid of it. Okay. Your competition is going to try and take any business away, especially if they know you're doing well and you're charging well and you're making money. They're all going to be looking at, how can I do this better and different than Steve? What can I do to make sure that I am getting some of this business that he's been taking away from everybody else for the kind of money that he's getting? But then I always also wanted to learn what others were charging. I would ask people after they'd hire me, I'd say, I'm just curious, what did you pay John Jones for doing the same kind of work? Well, we were actually paying him a little more than we were paying you, but he never delivered on time. Okay. I learned something. I wasn't charging enough. They were willing to pay more. And since I already had a reputation for delivering on time, I had to figure out a way to increase my pricing. But I only learned that because I was willing to ask and listen. Now, when I lost a sale, I always would say, can you tell me why I lost? Rarely was it because of price. I lost sales for doing the consulting work because somebody seemed to have a better CV, curriculum vitae. They had more experience in a certain area. If it was one of the expert witness jobs, they may have done another case similar to this already and were recognized by the court system. Whatever it is, I want to know why I lost the sale. This not only rolled into my pricing, but rolled into my marketing and my sales efforts, because I use that to overcome whatever objections people use. So the next time I wouldn't lose a sale for the same reason. And if I did get price objections, I always asked, what would it make worth the extra cost? So that, hey, if they said to me, Steve, if you had been able to tell us you could do this 2 weeks faster than the other guys, we don't care what you would have charged us extra, we would have done it. Bingo, I just learned something. More important than anything else, I had to be able to utilize my ability to deliver better and faster than everybody else. And that was something people were willing to pay for. And I really needed to get that. So ask for the objections, find out what's going on, and find out why. Now, I have been talking for about 40 minutes without a breath. How about questions? Am I answering the kinds of questions you had? I've still got about 3 slides to go, but I'd really like to make sure I'm getting things said that you need. Am I missing anything? Are there things that you would like to know about setting pricing? Okay. Yes, you are. Yes, I am. Talking too much, or yes, I am getting the information you want. I hope it's the latter, and I will believe that. Nobody? Oh, come on. Have I put everybody to sleep? I hope not. Oh, here we go. How do you deal with a retiree that has got nothing to do and decides to compete against you at a loss for an extended time period? Okay, people will sometimes do that. And what I ask my clients, now this is a time and material, I'm talking to somebody who's doing consulting. I will say, if you're dealing with a retiree, how do you know they're not going to get bored and just drop you? Are they going to take a vacation and leave you hanging for months? Are they always going to be available? Are they really in this for the long term? And I can usually fight that. If somebody says that, hey, I just want to know how this works, if you're just going to do it simple, hey, I can't do it. If you're going to do a 1-week project and that's all you need them for, they're going to hire, put up a new fan in your bedroom. Perfect. Let them do it. I'm not going to do that kind of a project because it's not going to sustain my business. Now, I wanted to understand how to do this with vintage goods. Okay, vintage goods are a specialty market. You need to understand what is the value. I have personally learned something about vintage goods recently. We're thinking about downsizing. One of my hobbies has been Lionel trains. These are the big old trains. And I thought, well, I'm going to start selling them. These things are worth a lot of money. Some of them are from before World War II. And I started going out and looking, and you know what? I found out that the big trains don't have that much value anymore because people don't have the space. I have one train, I paid $800 for it in 1976. I saw it on eBay for $200 in new condition. Oh, it was like stabbing myself in the heart. So if you're going to be in the vintage marketplace, know what things are worth before you buy them and know what they're worth as you try to go to sell them. Should one expect to make a profit in the first 3 years? Yes, why not? Now, it's not always possible. You may not make the profit you want, but in the first year I was in business, my goal was to make as much money as I made working for Citicorp. And that's the company I quit to start my business. Didn't quite make as much money at the top line. And after all my expenses, I didn't come close to making the amount of money I had. But I had created a positive cash flow. I'd been able to hire an administrative assistant. I was starting to get business. And in the second year, I exceeded the earnings that I would have had from Citicorp. Okay, if I raise my prices, whoop, that just jumped out of the screen because more people are coming in. Let me, come on, where's my cursor? There it is. If I raise my prices back to my original higher price, do I grandfather existing customers? If your existing customers were given a discount for being the first one, no, take them up to the new price. Tell them, I gave you a discount for being the first 3, but here's my price. And they say, oh, Steve, I helped you so much. Okay, instead of a 30% discount, one more time, I'll give you a 10% discount. So feel free to do that kind of thing. You have to know your clients. And there's some people, if they give you lots of leads, if they're out in the community telling people how good you are, absolutely. You're always welcome to give them a little bit of extra money. Startup cost is very expensive. Yes, it is. And what you have to do is you have to take a look at your startup costs and ask yourself, how many years are you willing to take that startup cost and put it into the business? So in my case, I figured all of my startup costs, which was legal, getting my business cards, all those things that you had to do once, I packaged that and I said, here's my number. I'm going to take that over the first 2 years. I was doing consulting. I figured that I would be able to consult about 1,000 hours a year. I know there are 2,000 hours in a working year, but you can never do that. I figured 1,000, and I recovered all of my startup costs over the first 2 years. I know I need to learn the market price, but outside of doing internet research, how can I determine what other people are charging? Hey, go ahead and ask some of their customers. Some of them will say, well, that wouldn't be fair for me to tell you, and just say, yeah, it would. I'm trying to understand where to set my pricing, and I want to know what other people are doing. If you never ask, the answer is always no. If you do ask, some people will say, yeah, I'll tell you, and that's what you want to have. I wanted to understand how to do this with vintage. Oh, I already answered that one. My business is covering its costs, but not making a profit. Well, that's what I was saying before. If you only cover your costs, you're not going to stay in business very long. So go ahead and research how much you can charge and get those numbers up. Okay.
Okay.
Christina, you just unmuted. Are you trying to ask me a question?
It will be coming. I think. Hope we can go a little bit longer. So those orange pills in the morning are like more stronger pills, but I'm trying to do that for last time.
Okay. Christina, your microphone is not very clear. Please go ahead and send me a text through the chat, and I'll try and respond by that. Oh, I research people, but think it's a place to haggle. We're not a thrift store. We are carefully curated. Yeah, first of all, people love to haggle. If someone wants to haggle, haggle with them, but just don't move very far. You know, they say, hey, you want $1,000, I'll give you $750. Say, okay, I'll charge you $1,050. They said, wait a minute, are you going to come toward me? And I say, no. Every time you want a lower price, I'm going to go higher. I'm not willing to go lower. So play the game with them as much as they want. I'm a travel and event consultant, so I'm providing a service. The internet is my biggest competition, but I still need to plan a consulting fee for my time. Well, again, what pain are you making go away? I hate making plane reservations. I hate trying to figure out what's the best hotel. I hate trying to figure out whether I'm better off with a AAA discount or a senior discount. And I am willing to pay a travel agent to do all of those things for me. So I know what the cost of my trip will, what a cruise will be, what the best online price is. So I'd like to get that best online price, and then you give me a charge for your time. Want to charge me $100 an hour? Fantastic. You are saving me such a big pain in my own back end. I'm willing to pay that because that's going to make my life easier. And by doing that, I am going to enjoy my vacation more. So go ahead and add that in. Make a profit. You have to. No one is consulting in my exact area. Whoop, I just lost that one. I mean, every once in a while, this jumps the wrong way. I need to learn more to. Should one expect? I already answered that. Well, I have somehow lost whatever it was. Oh, here it is. I'd like to know what to charge for tutoring. With so much competition for free tutoring and pricey private tutoring, I'm not sure how to price. Well, you have to think, what are you worth? What is the pain that you're taking away? Maybe you're willing to come to the student's home to do the tutoring. Maybe you're willing to bring them sample tests. Maybe in order to have this, you get to charge for drive time or have the parents drive the student to you. You've got to understand your own marketplace. You got to understand the pains that people are feeling, because that's what people are willing to pay to do. Let's see. Okay. I know I need to learn the market price. Okay. Yes, you are. Okay, I think I've got most of the things. Christina, if you see things that I'm not answering, please help me out here. My window is just moving so fast I can't keep up with itself. Oh, I have a business. I've recently lowered prices because no one was buying anything. I have noticed that I'm not making enough to pay for my loan and not paying myself. Okay, not a way to stay in business. You can't make that up in volume. Get your prices up. If you are not selling, find out why. Why are people not buying from you? Is your quality not the same as others in the market? Are you too hard to deal with? Do you not deliver on time? Whatever it is, you have to figure those things out, because those are the things that will let you do a better job and let you make money. If I reach out to a vendor to sell my product and they sell at a different price, how is the best way to adjust my cost? You know what? You have to decide that. That's called double breasting. There are a lot of people that don't like it if you are selling wholesale to one company and then selling retail at a lower price to the general public. If you are going to use reps to do the selling, you have to figure out what your standard selling price should be, and that's what you stick to. If people buy from you online, give you the people that are reselling your product the room to make a profit, because they'll do a good job for you.
Steve, I
Curious.
would be happy to continue to read it for you so that you can focus on the answer.
Oh, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
All righty. So the next question is, how much do I charge to make a profit?
Well, I always looked at my cost included paying for my time so I could cover all my overhead and living expenses. And then I decided the profit I wanted to make. In my case, I figured I wanted to make 100% profit. So if my cost of providing products and services over the year was $50,000, I wanted to then make a $50,000 profit. When I got it up to $100,000, I wanted to make a $100,000 profit. Now, it turned out when I got into the $200,000 range, I couldn't quite get to $200,000 a profit, but I was still able to bump it up to about $150,000 a profit. So part of it is understanding the market and understanding what the market will bear and where the limits are. There are no solid answers that you can always do.
And then I want to make sure that was the last question. I may have not heard you answer it. I just want to make sure that you were able to see the question that asked about volunteers.
Okay, is this volunteers to help your business?
So they said, I provide a service that my core customers use volunteers for. How do I convert work done by volunteers to a paid service?
Well, again, what I would tell them is volunteers show up when they want. If you're going to use me, I'm going to be there when you want. Again, you got to know what your competition is doing, and that may be for free, but understand why you can make it worth the extra cost. That's why I always say, if you get price objections, hey, I got free people doing this, what can make it worth the extra cost? Well, if you can be there every day when I need you, that's worth the extra cost, because volunteers don't always show up.
And did you also see the question about the tutoring?
Yeah, I think we just talked about the tutoring.
Got that one. Okay, we got some new ones that just came in. You had a comment. You make a good point. If you make a product, you do need to consider electric costs, maintenance costs, and other factors. They said thank you, and the rest were also thanks and agreement with you.
Okay, so then let me sort of make sure that we got a couple things to remember. Please, when you get the survey, do complete it, and you'll get a free copy of my last book, and I'll send it to you in both Kindle and PDF formats. And per the earlier request, we will send you the handouts. You can have the slides. As you saw, they're not fancy. I don't do fancy slides. Slides are just to make sure I remember all the key points I want to give you. Now, in summary, people pay to make pain go away. So here are the things to remember as you're setting prices and going for the max. 1, make sure you eliminate pain. That is the secret to being able to charge more. Number 2, under promise and over deliver. I have never found anybody upset because I delivered more than I promised. I have had people upset if I couldn't deliver the minimum that I promised. So under promise, always over deliver. That will be great. Number 3, always listen to your customers. They are going to tell you so much, and your best customers will tell you when you're screwing up. Listen to them, fix it immediately. Thank them for that. Give them something for giving you the bad news straight, and then keep on going. When you find issues inside, don't hide them. Fix them before you're asked. Go ahead and make sure that you're getting the things done and make a good profit. And the last thing I would say is have fun. Business is hard. If it were easy and guaranteed, it would already be done. So we know it's difficult. We know there are going to be good times and bad times. Have fun. Enjoy what you're doing. It makes it worthwhile. So with that, I've always believed that when you're done, you're done. Again, you have my email address. It's steve.epner@scorevolunteer.org. If you have more questions or would like to set up a time to talk offline, please send me an email. Just remind me, because I do these programs once or twice every month. I've got About 18 of them I do. Tell me you sat in on the pricing program and you have a question about XYZ. Chances are you'll get an answer within a day. I will warn you, we're going on vacation next week. So anything that you send me after Monday might not get answered until a week from Monday. But other than that, please look for answers within a day. With that, I'll say thank you very much. Oh, can you put the email and the address? Anna, could you please do that? Stick it in there while I'm saying goodbye to everybody. And yeah, please have a wonderful evening, a wonderful week, wonderful rest of the year. And you'll receive a copy of the ebook if you respond to the survey. That's all you got to do. And you'll also get a copy of the slides and a link to the recording of the whole program.